Kicks and White Line Fever Live, if that's not enough show names for you. And my partner in crime this time every week, Tony Adams. Tony, how are you?
Yeah, doing well, Steve, and excited over here in the Southern Hemisphere. We've got two massive games the next two nights, and then we know who's in the grand final. So it's coming to a very exciting conclusion, this rugby league season down under.
Yeah, and it is in Super League. There an entire round on Friday night, which people say that normally really upsets people, but there's a reason for it tomorrow night because they're going to decide the League Leaders Shield, the minor premiership, and this, as we sit here, 3 teams still in the running. So that's pretty exciting stuff. Pretty close. Although I know Andrew Foster, who's someone who follows us on social media, he pointed out that in order to have such a close season, I think he said 5 teams have had their worst year in 15. So now I want to thank some people who've been supporting us. We've on the White Line Fever Patreon, which is the best place to support us. Patreon.com/White Line Fever. Phil Rogers, Richard York, Darcy Lussick, Rugby League Nines, Patreon, Vivek Nayak. Thank you, Vivek. And Long Reads, just picking 5 people out at random. John Beach, Ian Judson, Michael Gothard, and Lee Wilson. Thanks for supporting Long Reads on Patreon. And for people who are into the archive stuff, historical stuff, League's back pages, Terry Cowley, Peter Stott, and Ryan Hoffman, who's still with us. Now, Tony, big news, I guess, away from the finals. West Tigers have, as you would imagine, decided they're going to have a bit of an inquiry into why they had such a poor year. But Lee Hadjipatelis, the chairman, has been reappointed already. You had a few things to say about that on social media. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a bizarre situation, isn't it? They're about to have this big inquiry. They're going to be looking for scapegoats. They're going to be looking for people to blame this back-to-back wooden spoons on. What if this inquiry comes back and says Lee Hadjipatelis is part of the problem and he's just signed a new 2 or 3 year deal? It's just crazy. You think a well-run intelligent club would have said to him, just wait and let's see what this inquiry shows before we take such a big step as reappointing our chairman. And ironically, today, less than 24 hours after that, the Dragons, the other club who I think it's fair to say are a shambles, reappointed their chairman for another 2 years. So funny things are happening down here, let me tell you.
Yeah, no, actually, giving another channel a plug. I wish they'd give us one, but James Graham's channel, they had Shane Richardson on, and he talked about what he thought was wrong with West Tigers and about their approach, that they don't have patience and they go after big names and they don't build up the players underneath. And if you go after big names, you alienate younger players who are on the cusp of first grade. So you've got to be careful, not just bringing in someone good, but scaring away someone who potentially might be better. So I'll put the link in the show notes so you can have a look at that because it's really it's really insightful from Richo about how you grow a club, and he's taken a couple of clubs from the basement to the penthouse. So I definitely recommend anyone watching to have a look at that as well. The Roosters are now out, Tony, eliminated last week. Did they have a successful season?
Yeah, that's been one of the big debate points this week. You look at the start of the season, plenty of people thought the Roosters were the biggest threat to Penrith to end their dreams of a three-peat, and it never really happened. They started the season poorly. They did finish very strongly. They won 6 in a row to make the finals. Then they put on a really gutsy performance against Cronulla to knock them out in the first round of the finals. But then they fell down at Melbourne last week, as pretty much we expected them to. So with a team with all their big names, admittedly they had some injuries, I think probably a little bit of a downer of a season. Certainly, I think someone like Nick Politis, who wants to win the comp every year, would not be happy. And there might just be a little bit of pressure on Trent Robinson next year after the way the Roosters went over the entire season.
Yeah, I was really interested to hear Braith Anasta say on a podcast. He thought, like, when the when the Bulldogs are over the cap, don't tell me that the Roosters weren't. And I thought, well, there's a bloke who works on TV every day of the week. Probably not the best thing to say, because podcasts, people do watch them even now. If you were to defame someone, it might take a few months to come out because of our audience size, but eventually it'll come out.
Yes, and the irony of that is too that after Braith played in that Bulldog side, he signed a very rich deal with the Roosters. So take out of that what you will.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was actually Selwyn Cobbo, said that about his coach, Kevin Walters, that he's an okay coach. He's all right, but he's more a good bloke, And I think he said that in October, and it didn't really reach the mainstream media until about March. So obviously Braith's, he didn't stay under the hat that long. Interesting with the finals. We'll go through the tips for NRL finals, short and sweet program this week. You know what, I'm going to cut in last because we didn't do promo during the week, and I should have done a promo at the end of last week's show. We might have more people watching this week because it was quite funny. We put the Zoom link up on social media. We had all sorts of people tuning in. So this week I put the call out. You just send us an email, and I probably didn't. Anyway, look, for people watching the recorded version, I'll just cut to the clip now from what happened last week. Well, did you watch the match this morning? What were your thoughts?
Это матч ебал пидоры несчастные.
А я армия черный ворон, снова готовят нам царский трон.
Oh dear. It was a fantastic game, wasn't it?
Uncle Messi.
Two fantastic attacking teams and two fantastic defenses, seemed to me.
Yeah. Do you
We
think
don't
the right
often get
team?
that together.
Oh, yeah. So fucking bad.
That's awesome. That's the end of our show. That's the end of our show. We'll be back next week. Take care. And I know you found that very amusing, Tony, didn't you? Should we do that?
I did, and I actually, when I put it up on social media, I put a warning that you had to be over 18 to watch or listen. It was quite explicit.
Okay, Tony, let's go through the preliminary finals. And I believe they're struggling to sell tickets to Penrith and Melbourne. What do you think is going to happen there?
Yeah, well, I actually posted something on my Twitter yesterday that the league were texting and emailing people, offering them 2 tickets for the price of 1. And of course, I got a lot of angry responses to that from people who bought their tickets at face value, and all of a sudden they were basically offering them 2 days later at a 50% discount. So yeah, they're struggling to fill Accor Stadium for the big Panthers game, and I guess when you've got to come up from Melbourne, it's to be expected. There are not going to be too many Storm fans there. I imagine there'll be plenty of Panthers fans there, but what does it hold these days? 70,000, 80,000. I think they'll struggle to fill it even with this very generous late offer.
Yeah, and who wins?
I'm going the favourites in both games. So the Panthers. I think Melbourne, any Craig Bellamy team in a big game is always going to be up for it. But I just think the Panthers have been the team to beat all year, really all the last 3 years. And, I can see them going straight through to the grand final, but it'll be a tough game, that's for sure.
Nice piece on Patreon today by our friend David Hayward. He wrote a piece about the connections between the 92, 93 Penrith and Brisbane teams and the current teams. And obviously in the coaching staffs, you've got John Cartwright and Kevin Walters in the box for Brisbane. And he talked about, with the loss of Ben Alexander, how it was a lost dynasty at Penrith and how maybe history might be redressed in one way or another in the next 2 weeks. So a nice piece from David. It's free to read, patreon.com/rugby league long reads. Second game, and it's the Warriors. People got angry because the Warriors announced it was a sellout in Brisbane. I think people are looking for anything to G themselves up if they're going to get angry about that. But what do you think happens here?
Yeah, it's look, the Warriors, I think they're, of the four teams, they're the sentimental favourites, particularly when you go back to what happened during COVID, the sacrifices they made. They basically, a lot of them had to live the entire season in Sydney away from their families, their loved ones. It was too much for some players. They basically left the Warriors or went home. So the club's been through a lot, and for them to go from 15th last year down to a game from the grand final, I think just about everyone agrees Andrew Webster's the coach of the year, no matter what happens from here. You know, in his first season, it's been remarkable. But sadly, I think this is the end. I think they played their grand final last weekend, a very emotional big win over the Knights before a capacity crowd at Carlisle Park, or Mount Smart it is these days, isn't it? Mount Smart Stadium. And yeah, I think the Broncos have just been a little bit too good, and that will set the stage for what I think is an epic grand final. The Panthers Broncos. I think that's the one everyone except the fans of the other 15 clubs have been wanting, because they're the two strongest teams. They've got amazing strike power. They've got star power. They've got players who can score length of the field tries. It should be a classic grand final if that's the way it pans out.
Showing your age there, Carlisle Park. I think it's a car park now. It's take out law. It's just car park. Okay, Tony. Last round of Super League. You got the fixtures in front of you there. It's I know that Lee have sold out their game against their neighbours Wigan, and that's the game that's going to be televised. But Sky are going to have cameras at all the matches and try to keep us updated with the race for the League Leaders Shield. And I think Wigan very professional last week in a tough match. I think based on what I've seen, you know, they may not lose another game this year, or at least until the grand final. Wigan, so I'm going to tip Wigan in that one. So I've given you a head start there, Tony.
All righty. The next one's Wakefield against Hull KR.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a big game, I guess, for Hull KR. It's you know, they're still alive. Interestingly, they've already launched their strip for 2023, and they've got potentially a month left in 2024. They've already launched next year's strip. Although someone told me that the Dolphins, as I acknowledge this, the Dolphins have already played in their alternative jersey from 2024. Do you know that? It's bizarre.
No,
but,
I didn't.
So a bit of trivia there, but no, I'm going to go. I'm going to go with Hull KR there. Although, you know, obviously it'd be emotional with Wakey definitely going down, and they probably would like to go out with a win from. But nevertheless, Hull KR.
All righty. Then Salford against Catalan.
Yeah, this is depending on how other results go. Catalans still in the running for the League Leaders Shield. If they're going to do anything in the finals, I think they've got to win this one. So I'm tipping a win. Won't be enough for them, but a win for Catalans.
Yeah. Before we go on, Steve, I just want to mention I wrote a yarn during the week that Catalan are chasing Wade Graham, which is interesting because he just got cheered off the field last week after retiring at Cronulla. He's 32 years old, but Catalan think he's still got a bit of running in those legs of his. He's certainly a smart player, a good ball player. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with that one.
Yeah, that's a good story, Tony. I missed that. Yeah, that's a good story.
Okay, next is St Helens against Hull FC.
Yeah, Hull FC were horrible last week. They'll get lapped. 50 or more to St Helens, yep.
Okay. Yeah, well, they're paying $1 so I think the bookies agree with you. Next, we got Leeds Rhinos, who seem to be up and down against Cass.
Yeah, now this is a big end of season really for Leeds and for Rowan Smith. Their local rivals have only Pride to play for. I guess they both only got Pride to play for, but a lot more Pride at stake for Leeds. If they were to lose this one, I think it would make for a horrible off season for a lot of people at the club, even though they're going to replace a lot of players. So it's hard to believe a dead rubber match has so much riding on it. But I think with Leeds being such a big club and being under so much pressure, I think a lot is riding on this game. I don't know. I think Cass are going to really rub it in their noses. I think Cass will win this game and make it a very difficult off season for Gary Hetherington and everyone at Headingley.
Okay, and the last one, Huddersfield against my men, the Warrington Wolves.
Yeah, Huddersfield and Warrington. Warrington, obviously, you still have, I think that depending on other results, they've still got stuff to play for. But Huddersfield looked pretty powerful last week against a very poor Hull FC. And based on that, I'm going to tip a win to Ian Watson's men to come home with a bit of a wet sail there at the end of the season. So it's a short and sweet episode. Hopefully it's been sweet. We didn't have people calling in, which was a relief. That was especially live. We're going out live. You really can't do that when we're going out live. There will be a discount this week. I try to do that when it's on my channel. So I've got some women's t-shirts from the Denver Test. If you're going to Vegas, you need to be fitted out fully in American Rugby League gear. And what a better way to start. I'm doing these t-shirts from Denver for 1 pence, 1p plus postage. So just I'll put the link in the show notes. Put the link in the show notes, and the discount code is YouTube. You should be able to remember that, YouTube. And I'll send you. And please don't buy 50. I don't have 50, but don't try to buy 50 for 1p each. A limit of 3 per customer. Okay. That's about it, Tony. Unless you enjoy the footy this weekend, International Rugby League is also kicking off with the Prime Minister's 13. And then we've got the Pacific Championships starting on the weekend of the Super League Grand Final in this country. So there's a lot to look forward to over the next couple of months. Anything you want to add, Tony?
No, but I'm going to try finding myself a 1p in Australia. That's one of the best bargains I've ever seen.
I think currency conversion might be 1.67 cents.
I can handle that. Just.